What is going on YouTube? This is Acid Root. So I'm going to review the fifth album by rock band Evanescence. Basically this project is called The Bitter Truth and it came out in the spring of 2021. So the thing about this particular project is this came after like the kind of pseudo album synthesis from late 2017 as far as those pitches can happen, which really this is about the lengthiest gap between Evanescence albums here, between their 2011 album self-titled Evanescence and then this one came out, damn near 10 years later. So this was the pitch behind it, but I want to say basically the concept, it just kind of like there was just a bunch of slag years throughout the 2010s. It's really unfortunate that there was only one true Evanescence album throughout the 2010s, I'd have to say. But Synthesis was a pretty decent project. I mean, it did not really have that much new material, but it did have at least 2 new songs on there. I did purchase that album a ways back. I need to mess with that project more. Had some good stuff, had some good piano solos and pitches like that. It was a pretty it was haunting, like typical kind of Evanescence, but I look after it, the orchestral type flair when it was on songs that this did not have, like when they would do it with like turn up songs, it just didn't work as well in my opinion. I looked after it, I felt like it belonged on more songs like Hello and My Immortal and some of the ones off the Open Door that just had a little bit more ethereal and this kind of more haunting aspect. It was a clever concept. It was definitely, I do recommend to fuck with Synthesis for folks that don't know as full blown about it if they skipped over it because it wasn't an actual album. It's just the pitch that it did have it had the right ideas and concoction, just the execution was not always as like sound within that, but I look at it, still some good stuff. But this is like the true sequel to Evanescence from 2011. This is pretty excellent type fare here. This is a classic here. This is, in my opinion, one of the more inspired. This is as vicious as Fallen from 2003 and as haunting as The Open Door from 2006. This has a lot of appeals behind that. This delivers on a lot of the strengths that Evanescence is typically kind of known for. The only real notch to this particular project, I'm going to give this album like a classic score, just the pitch behind it. There's only one song out of these 12 on here that I don't recommend. It's really not that much of a song as much as it is just an intro. But losing track of what I was going to say here. I was going to say the only true notch to this particular project is just that, the only true notch to this particular project is just the fact that its chart appeal is not as severe as it was in like the early 2000s and the 2000s decade. And I think the concept behind it as to why that kind of was is just the fact that they took damn near 10 years off. So it seemed like, as generation differences kind of started to happen just within the pitch behind it. It just needed some familiarizing that Synthesis didn't as much full-blown kind of pull off seemingly, but I look after it within the pitch. Yeah, this is definitely an album to fuck with here. Just nails it, just blisteringly well, just excellent type pitch, just really has some of the best moments of Evanescence and some new stuff that just really has that appeal. So the thing about this particular album is the fact that it has a lot of gothicness about it, more so than, I feel like more so than like, Fallen and The Open Door. Like, The Open Door was definitely a haunting type one, and then I feel like Fallen definitely had like more new metal-esque and kind of more just riffage that was just kind of more something like Linkin Park or like one of those type bands, or I think of like Korn or something like that, one of those type bands. But I look after this particular one, this one has like some pop grabs on here, and it has some degree of like the aspects of like what Evanescence from 2011 has with some of that social term. This is a pretty social project on here. It does have some of that aspects about it. This is able to nail some of these. This is able to nail, this is the social appeal of this particular project really has like a good bite about it, just within the aspect of just being able to do some of these particular, the social appeal about this particular project really has some good bite about it, just being able to say that it does have like songs that pretty much sound relevant to like the 2020s and while having like the strengths of like their previous albums. So we'll get towards that just within that pitch, just starting to lose track of the point I'm trying to get to here. But there are strengths, just to be able to say that there are strengths, and I do like I do remember traces. I need to purchase like Evanescence from 2011, but that was definitely a pretty social type project. Basically it took like the aspects of Fallen and then ramped it up with just more kind of frenetic, kind of paced, kind of intensive kind of social bite just within the aspect behind it. And that's what this album kind of particularly does as well. Not every single song is just kind of an amalgamation of a lot of styles that they did across the years between 2003 to now, or to 2021, I'd have to say. It was just kind of the pitch that it has. It's like this one's just more varietized, so it's just kind of the pitch. It doesn't have as many social heaters as like Evanescence from 2011, and doesn't have as much like commercial snap as Fallen, but it definitely is within the pitch. So let's get towards it so you know what I'm talking about. So there were 5 singles off this particular project. The first one was Wasted on You. Now this is a pretty good commercial bite of that about this particular one. It's actually interesting that this particular band did not manage to bounce back into the spotlight, considering that Basically, Fallen from 2003 went like 7 tons platinum, and I want to say the Open Door was a pretty good appeal as well as far as those pitches kind of happen. But Wasted on You is like a stretching kind of goth pop kind of commute ballad to kind of get here. It's just a different taste. It's like a surprising kind of commercial and clean vanilla brush to kind of have here. So it just kind of deals with the concept of just being able to get some of these type of ones, just being able to get Evanescence on like probably just one of the cleaner songs I would have seen from them in a recent while. I would have to say normally they're pretty gothic and just kind of more in like the alternative sense, but this is actually one that commercializes within a certain aspect, like the concept of like goth rock, just within the tone behind it. It's basically like if Hot Topic were to be on like standard radio, it just kind of has that appeal behind it, like something you would almost hear on like regular kind of metal type radio, something like that, or just rock radio. It's something that like it's like kind of like a pop rap grab, something like Sugar Ray or Smash Mouth would have done, just with like a gothic sense. Just an interesting concept. I want to say Korn has done this once or twice, not really as full blown sure. I probably can think of it like maybe like a song like Falling Away From Me, just within the more new metal type tone. One of those type ones that just tries to reach for like more stardom than just like the standard kind of alternative metal charts, but it works. It's just a good concept. I mean, it's not a sellout song, but this is kind of the concept. It's not as vicious as they can get on this particular album. It's just like a good radio friendly type one for some initial kind of almost SFW like territory, so it works for that. The Game Is Over is a nice one. It's like a doomed and kind of glaring vintage Evanescence, I would say here. Gnarled fun, definitely. The band work is pretty excellent on this particular song, and a lot of these songs on here, there's like a night venue heater, and the song rips pretty well, so it's a good concept for that. So this is definitely one of those ones that feels like Fallen, just with a more recent kind of aspect and sheens about it, just to be able to get there. Use My Voice is a nice one as well. Now, yeah, I'm not even sure if these songs charted on like the rock charts. Wikipedia does not list those charts for Evanescence as far as those pitches kind of happen, but I look after it. I want to say that some of these were probably picked up on like standard US main rock and alternative charts and some of those type of charts that are typically on, but I just would have to, I'll look and see if Game Is Over, because that this feels, yeah, on the hot rock and alternative songs it hit 15, so it's just kind of the concepts. I would figure that that song did good enough, and it's the same thing with Use My Voice, hit 44 on the rock airplay, and then Wasted on You particularly hit like 16 on the alternative chart. So yeah, it's just, I mean, I think the reality behind Wasted on You is that one's just not as much like a metal song as much as it is kind of goth pop rock, but it's a good tone. I think The Game Is Over is just an excellent type one. But Use My Voice, like I was saying, third single is like a brooding kind of autumn haze, good concept for that. It's like a good haunting kind of makeshift stretcher to kind of get here, and it's like a goth pop kind of grab definitely, and it's like some power rock. So it kind of has traces of arena rock in here, just within the sense, feels like a rock kind of power ballad just within the pitch behind it. Good Travers type song to kind of get here just within the pitch, just some good concepts of disc. Kind of like that typical kind of post-grunge commute just without the alternative metal. This one is kind of alternative, but it's just more gothic just within a sense of just being like a vanilla kind of goth rock album. I look after it like I feel like Fallen was not as much alternative, but I do feel like the Open Door kind of was, and I feel like Evanescence, or the self-titled Evanescence from 2011, moreover, kind of was within certain senses. It's just kind of the blend where it feels just, a lot of this feels like front-runner kind of rock music. I would say for like the metal charts, it just feels more highlighted within the pitch, but it doesn't feel as alternative as normal. I think the concept is just more saying that like it's not Smash Mouth and it's not Sugar Ray and it's not Third Eye Blind and it's not some of those type of bands, more typical kind of vanilla rock that you would hear on like pop charts and rhythmic charts as far as those pitches kind of happen. But it is like on the metal charts, this is pretty vanilla just within the pitch. It just has the aspect of having that goth appeal behind it, so it's just the concept of just being able to get like gothic metal just within the pitch of it being vanilla that you would hear for it. It's just kind of, so it just kind of phases out like being more over here type territory, you know, it's just within the pitch, but it works for that. It's a classic. This is a great album here, superb. And then Better Without You is like a neo kind of electric goth rock, I would have to say about this one. Very tensive and moody primer for some step out, definitely get here. definitely some dance club heat, and the song boils pretty well. Same thing with the song Yeah Right. Both of these type ones are just some excellent type fare. I feel like The Game Is Over, Better Without You, and Yeah Right are all some social bite type ones. It's for some good turn up, with probably Yeah Right being the most highlighted one, but Better Without You is definitely an excellent type one to kind of get here. But yeah, these songs are basically like a good trifecta to kind of get just the concept. Better Without You, Yeah Right, The Game Is Over, just some excellent type pitches. Really like the overall atmosphere behind it. I mean, it retains like that aspect, and I do like the concept of it. I do like the appeal, like the earlier strengths from like Fallen. It's a good pitch. I mean, Fallen, for folks that may not full blown as much know, just in case, I feel like the concept of it is Fallen basically is like an early 2000s rock classic. It's definitely one of the more highlighted type ones. Like when you think of albums like Chocolate Starfish by Limp Bizkit, or Korn's Issues from late 1999, and like albums like the Nickelback 2001 album Silver Side Up, some of the more highlighted type ones around that time. I'm trying to think of some ones from 2005, like Foo Fighters 2005 album, some of those type pitches. I mean, Fallen was definitely a seminal type one, and this album has a lot of that appeal, just without the overall commercial bite. I mean, it has commercial grabs, but it's just kind of the concept that, I would say, scratch that. It worked for like the rock chart, so it's a good pitch behind it. It's just kind of the concept, but yeah, Better Without You is a nice one. The song this like definitely some dance club heat, like I was saying. The song boils pretty well, so it's a good pitch for that. And then Yeah Right's a real highlighted type one. Now this was a single that was released later on, this years after this album particularly came out. Like supposedly Evanescence is working on some new stuff. It's gonna be excellent to kind of get another album like this. I would definitely have to say some good appeal. It's like a snazzy kind of alternative two-step bounce to kind of get here. Reminds me definitely of their 2011 album with like the social bite about it, and this gets things riled pretty easily. I'd have to say, just a good appeal. A lot of good melodies on this particular work, some good band work on here, just in the pitch behind it. A lot of these just have that particular bite, good concept to be able to have some of these. Yeah, these dance club songs are real hitting. It's quality, affable, and hitting dance club songs kind of get here. A lot of this just has that appeal. So it's pretty social bite about this project is strengthy, just to be able to say, just within the concept of just getting a lot of these quality, just getting a lot of these ones here. So yeah, basically, like I was saying, the only song I don't recommend in any fashion is just this Artifact. The turn, the pitch behind this one is this as being like an electric Artifact. The turn was this kind of electronic, kind of in between interlude type song, but I feel like the haunting kind of vocals on here work, but it just didn't really fit with like the correct kind of instrumentation on this particular song. I feel like the instrumental in this song was probably something that I feel like the gothic vocals combined with something electronic within that sense, it just kind of felt more of like, I don't know, the aspect behind it was just not the correct kind of vocals for how that particular kind of went. I think it needed something a little bit darker, something a little bit more malaise, something like that, something with a little bit more of like the Open Door-esque, more so than like kind of like Matrix-esque, I would have to say. I mean, I like the concept of what it was doing, but I feel like the amalgamation behind that song just didn't have as much kind of aspect behind it, I'd say. But it's good. It's really not a song as much as it is. It's kind of like an interlude. But I like what it was meant to do, but it just didn't pull it off as much, in my opinion. I look after it like, yeah, so every other song on here is blistering. The song gets a 10 out of 10. Real nice one on here is Far From Heaven. It's like a super piano haunt of a song to kind of get. It's like, the song is like My Immortal and Hello from Fallen, and some of the songs off the Open Door that had that haunting kind of piano type feel. Good return for that, I'd have to say, and it's like a brushy kind of autumn glimmer to kind of get here. So it's good concept, vintage Evanescence, just within the pitch of them nailing these type of songs. Probably could have used another song like this on here, would have been pretty excellent type fare, but it's good pitch behind that. Blind Belief is another aspect of one. This takes it back to like the Fallen days and possibly like the Open Door. It's like a good moody and crisp kind of backyard hangout type song kind of get here. Just typical fare of just like a modest kind of localized type party. Definitely some fraternized jive to kind of get, and this is like stock Evanescence, I would feel like stock Evanescence hit, and this is a pretty ambient type song. This one's not as vicious as some of the songs on here, like The Game Is Over, Better Without You, Yeah Right, Take Cut, or Feeding the Dark, some of those types of one. Broken Pieces shine, but it does have like enough bite to be able to say that it just is like typical kind of, just more ambient, just more relaxed kind of kickback. Maybe have a few beers in your system, something like that, but it works. Broken Pieces shine's a pretty good way to kick off the album in terms of the songs that are on here. In terms of the actual songs that are on here, there's like a pounding kind of arena-like heavy knock to kind of get. This is more typical kind of hard rock, I'd have to say. Has more hard rock appeal with like gothic tints, I'd have to suppose. This kind of concept about it. But yeah, I like some of this thumping type one. This one to kind of set the mood, pitches like that, kick things off. Good Kickstarter, kind of get this within a more pounding type sense. Some good aspects of like social type fare. I mean, I feel like some of this could be more just festival arena like, but also within the concept of just more socialized get together local type fare, just within the pitch, just standard kicks things off pretty well. Once again, another more great instrumentation. Just reminds me of something that like Disturbed or Godsmack would kind of do within some of those type pitches, but it works for that. Hard to me is a quality one. It's like the last few moments of work shift kind of wrap up to kind of get here, and some evening turn up definitely some, some evening turn up primer to kind of get, and it's like pick up beer and kind of situate type song, call up the homies, figure out some pitches like that as far as that particular one happens. Just real, some of these primer type songs, just the aspect of just it being like 5:15 or 4:30, something like that, those last few moments of just getting work done, some of that type of, just getting ready to figure out what's going to happen, just kind of a primer for more songs like Yeah Right, Better Without You, Take or Feeding the Dark, some of these type ones with a little bit more blister and feels good concept, kind of get some of these just moments of that. There is work shift on this particular product. It does within a gothic type tone, which is an awesome aspect to kind of get. It's kind of on here in a relative sense, but I'm glad. I actually do like all the furore and overall social bite of this particular product. But I do feel like songs like Wasted on You and Part of Me, and there's at least a couple others like Take Cover and Use My Voice that do have some makeshift on here within that. So Take Cover is a nice one. It's like a gothic kind of post-grunge-esque kind of commute to kind of get some some good vehicle workaday commute just within the pitch behind it. Good workaday outs definitely. It's like a good alternative kind of, it's like some good alternative music kind of errands knockout to kind of get done here. So just the pitch, picking up some stands, some of that type fare, paying bills, some of that type paying a cell phone bill, some of that type fare, picking up like supplies, getting like dish soap and napkins, some of those type pitches just within the tone behind it as far as that particular aspect kind of happens. It's some good concepts as far as that would kind of go. It's relative pitch just within a gothic sense. I do like the tone of just being able to say some of those as far as that would kind of happen. It's kind of a good one that goes along great with Use My Voice, I'd have to say. I think the last one I haven't covered on here would be Feeding the Dark, and this is definitely an album highlight as far as those pitches kind of happen. One of the best. Definitely just to be able to say within that, it's probably seemingly underappreciated just because it's not a single, but definitely this album just dependent upon the fact. I mean, I realize that Evanescence doesn't commonly drop albums. They do take lengthier breaks than probably most folks would kind of want. I think that leads to folks kind of forgetting about them and not remembering as much, but I look after this is definitely some concept takes it back to like Fallen, some of the gnarled riffage on the album Fallen, some of the overall aspects, some of that one. And I do feel like Broken Pieces Shine has some great drum work on there, just to say that. But basically, Feeding the Dark is like a buzzing kind of vintage Fallen era Evanescence. I would have to say it's just a creeping and a gas type feel about this particular one, and it's definitely a venue heater to kind of get. So it's just a concept, typical kind of fare just within the aspects of some of these type ones. I mean, not every single one is like a dance club song, like songs like Yeah Right, Better Without You, and The Game Is Over, some of those type of ones, but I do feel like the concept of just getting like that standard, in some sense, it's kind of rave type music, but then not quite as crazy. I feel like the most snappy type moments, I mean, I feel like it's enough of it just being out and about, but in terms of like the actual shake your ass in club, get tore up, just some of those type fares. I mean, it has the riffage definitely is vicious enough to be able to have these times, but in terms of like actual dance club songs, it seems more kind of hangout kind of ambience within the dance club more so than actually being on the dance floor within a pitch. And I do think, Evanescence from 2011 had more songs like that, but it's not like this album doesn't. It's just kind of, it's not as many full blown. It's kind of a snappier type album, but I do feel like it's kind of a disappointment that like the deluxe edition, which has a couple good cover songs, which is a pretty excellent type pitch. I think probably Amy Lee could probably nail Cruel Summer and The Chain by Fleetwood Mac. Both these, or The Chain is by Fleetwood Mac, Cruel Summer's by Bananarama, some of those type pitches. So it's just a good concept to kind of get some of these extra type ones. I'm not reviewing them just because I probably should have. I just didn't think of it at the particular time. But I would assume that these songs would probably be further highlights. Just their cover songs is good enough. I would think that they'd probably have some gothic type appeal, but yeah, it's a Target edition, a Japanese edition, so I question why it was not on Spotify, some pitches like that, but those are some actual kind of bonus songs I probably say would bolster this album further, I'd have to suppose. A good concept, those should have been on the standard edition, or like a super deluxe edition where you could get them. This album gets a 10 out of 10. The social score is going to get a 10 out of 10 also, just within the pitch. Maybe you would get like a 9. This album would either get a 10 out of 10 or a 9.75 social. It has enough bite on here to be able to say a lot of these plenty of good gnarled type songs kind of get for some backyard type fares, some night venue type fares, some makeshift type fares, some SFW makeshift type fare. Just the aspect of a lot of these type ones, just being able to have has enough bite to be able to say, and it really nails like some commercial aspects of making goth kind of commercial within the sense of it being more vanilla, to where Amy Lee is not seen as like an alternative queen, but just more of like a rock queen, something like that. When you think of like the chick from like Hailstorm and some of those type ones that just are seen as like good rock songstresses as far as those pitches going to happen. I mean, for a while there, with albums like The Open Door and Fallen, it seemed like Amy Lee was going to be like one of the faces of standard vanilla kind of rock, but with not as many albums coming across like the 2011, not as many albums coming out across the 2010s decade that kind of dissipated, but still a good pitch to be able to say that this is basically like this is like a good appeal of like goth rock being commercial within that sense, and the quality of it is definitely there. So that's the pitch behind it. So yeah, I would probably say just for the aspect behind it, just 10 out of 10. But it just almost say it could be a 9.75 just because the concept that the commercial bite of the 2000s isn't as much full blown there. It was just the pitch behind it. But in terms of the future, like supposedly Evanescence is working on another album, which is pretty excellent type pitch. It would be good to get some stopgap type stuff, something like that, like an EP, like they did with Anywhere But Home, some of those type fairs. But yeah, this has a lot of good blistering type appeal, good concept to see what's going to happen here. And this is yet another classic from Evanescence. Just like a lot of these, there's still a few more to get to. I do want to get to Origin. There's like some 90s EPs or early 2000s EPs to get to as well, but we'll have to see about some of these and see what's up with them.